Following Jesus is not an intellectual pursuit. Now, some of you are going to be inclined to disagree with what I just said. So I just want you to hang with me for a minute, because when I explain why, I think you're going to be surprised. You see, the issue with knowing God is that God is infinite, which means that no matter how much I know, no matter how much I close the chasm between what is known and what is available to be known, the amount that I know will always be far less than the amount that is available to be known. That's why when the Pharisees asked Jesus just to tell them plainly, "Are you the Son of God?" His response to them was, "I've already told you plainly. And not only that, but I've demonstrated it, and yet you still don't believe. But my sheep hear my voice." Notice he didn't say my sheep know my voice. Notice he didn't say my sheep know my character. He said my sheep hear my voice. See, this is the issue with how most of us tend to understand the concept of knowing. We tend to think of knowing as knowledge, having information, or having adequate evidence that we can evaluate with our mind. And then based on that evidence and on that rationale, then we can conclude that a thing is either true or false, or real or fake. There's just one problem. The mind can be fooled. We know that because if you present somebody with the wrong information or with incomplete information, it's actually quite easy to deceive them. This is why a person can have all of the credentials. They can look the part, they can talk the part, they can act the part. Everything about the person can be perfectly aligned and fit and seem exactly like they are who they say they are. And yet somehow we just feel something's off. We can't put our finger on it. There's no test for it. There's no amount of information that can be presented to fix this sense that we have that something is not right. You might call this resonance. This is why Jesus could speak to the Pharisees and they could hear his voice, but they couldn't hear his voice. Now, let me tell you why this is so important. Walking with God is not going to always look the way you think it should look. Over the last 20 years of walking with him, I have seen him take me places that there's no rational explanation for how everything worked out so perfectly the way that it did. But in the midst of all of these situations, which there have been so many in my life, where God showed up in ways that some people will spend their whole life waiting to see God show up in some of the ways he showed up in my life, and maybe see it once. I've seen it countless times. But in the midst of all of that, I also experienced my parents and grandmother being killed on Christmas Eve, countless miscarriages, multiple layoffs, losing everything, having to move my entire family in with friends and with family, having people I loved and counted on betray me, having the church basically outright reject me on multiple occasions, businesses where God showed up over and over and over again to keep the business alive in ways that when you're looking at it, it looked like he was setting us up for success, only to have the entire thing fold up on itself and fail miserably. Evictions, repossessions, so many ups and downs that my life looks like a roller coaster. Time I think I have finally made it to the other side. I finally gotten the revelation. I finally mastered and understood who God is, how he works, how he operates, what to expect from him. He changes up the script on me. Something new happens, some new way of operating, some new angle or side to who he is and how he engages with me. If you look at my life through nearly every lens that people preach God through, right? Take the prosperity doctrine lens. Seasons of my life, it has looked exactly like that. Praying, walking with God, blessing everything that I'm doing. Then you got the suffering doctrine. It's supposed to look like suffering, walking through fire. I've had that life too. I've had seasons where we had to walk to the grocery store because we were too poor to drive there and buy groceries. Then you can throw in the mundane doctrine. Life isn't about the up or the down. It's not about being super prosperous. It's not about, being poor. It's about just every single day showing up, being a good person, doing the hard and difficult work of taking care of your family and contributing to society, right? I've heard that doctrine too, and I've lived that life as well. I've had seasons where the Lord was speaking to me so clearly. It was dreams, it was visions, it was all day long, every single day. And then I've had seasons where I didn't hear a word. I wondered if he was even with me anymore, if he'd completely forgotten about me. I've had seasons where the revelation was so strong that it was difficult to just even engage life. The things that he was showing me were so profound, they were so difficult to even process, that it nearly pushed me into nihilism, because I'm looking at the world and I'm going, what is the point of even living on this planet in light of all of these things that I am seeing? What I'm trying to tell you is that you can read all the scripture that you want. You can get all of the truths. You can feel very certain about who God is and what he will allow and what he won't allow, what he cares about and what he doesn't care about. And I am here to tell you that whatever you think you know, it is in part. Whatever you feel certain of, I promise you there is far more uncertainty than there is certainty. And I'm not telling you this because I want you to lose your confidence in God. I'm telling you this because I want you to lose your confidence in your perception of God, because that will betray you. The only thing that we can hold on to is the resonance, the hearing of his voice. And I don't mean hearing audibly. That's not what I'm talking about. It's that resonance that you get whenever you touch his presence, when you pray, when you know he's there, when he's not speaking audibly, but you can sense that it's his voice. There's something that resonates whenever the Lord speaks, whenever the Lord enters into a room, whenever you're in the presence of a person who follows the same God. There's a resonance there, and you can feel it. And here's the thing, a lot of believers out here, they started out with that resonance. That's what they were drawn to. But then over the course of church and reading the word and doctrine and ideals, what starts to happen as human beings, we like that certainty. We like to feel confident about something. And so we start getting real comfortable with our confidence in our perception of God, not in his actual voice, not in the resonance, not in his person, in the promises, the things that we read in scripture, the things that make us feel good about who he is. And it's not always about prosperity. Some people need to feel certain about that suffering, right? Some people are drawn to the suffering narrative. They need to feel confident that as long as they're suffering, that makes them aligned with Christ. There's others that need to feel like it's prosperity. They need to feel like, well, as long as I'm prospering, because God's an extravagant God. And so as long as I'm prospering, that I've got to be doing it right. I got to be lined up with God. And here's the thing, both and neither are true. You got the other person who's the mundane person. My dad was one of these people. He believed that the way you knew that you were doing right was if you had that endurance, that grit to show up every day, do the hard thing. It's not about flash. It's not about, too low, too high. It's just that middle, maintaining that middle ground, because that's hard, guys. That's hard. Some people like to make it out like, oh, that's easy. There's no risk in that. No, it's hard. It is hard to show up every day and maintain. That's why people don't have abs. It's hard. But I'm going to say this again. If your confidence is in the way that you are following God, then your confidence is not in God. Now listen, if you're feeling convicted by what I'm saying, I want you to hear me. This is not a rebuke. This is not a rebuke. I'm not trying to call you out here. I'm trying to tell you, I'm trying to prepare you, because I was not prepared. I'm trying to prepare you that if your confidence is in the way that you follow God, if your confidence is in any other promise, then he is good and he loves you. If it is in any other promise than that, then you are unstable. Your confidence is in an application, not in the person who is upholding that application. And that is a dangerous place. That is an unstable place. It says, yea, he is a rock of ages. Not yea, the things that you read in scripture are a rock of ages. Not yea, the way that you follow him is a rock of ages. No, yea, he is a rock of ages. But when you hold on to him, understand that he will not behave the way that you expect him to. He will not conform to your expectations. You will be conformed to his expectations. And if you want to survive that process, you're going to have to learn to walk with him by something other than reason, something other than logic, something other than your understanding of the scripture. Because all of those things will be insufficient. Every single one of them, they will break under the pressure. The only thing that we have to hold on to is that voice. Because that voice doesn't rely on our ability to hear or to understand. Our ability to hear and understand relies on that voice.